All right. So thanks. I guess for the purposes of this call, I usually call you Guruji, but for interviews, so people know who I'm talking to, because there's more than one. I'm with the one of the. He's been called the greatest guitarist, slide guitarist in the world by many sources, including myself, which is
You are
uh,
biased.
proof of itself. Yeah, I can't argue with that, right? Um, so I'm here with the great Debashish Bhattacharya and Anandi Bhattacharya, both of the Debashish Bhattacharya trio, who are coming to New York City and Brooklyn in October. They're going to be playing the penultimate set of the Ragas Live Festival. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, thanks for joining me, Anandi. Thanks for joining me, Debashish.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much for
Yeah,
having us.
yeah, I'm psyched. So I have some questions way back from the beginning. I remember you telling me some story, Debashish Ji, that way back when your father was teaching you music, that you'd be learning in the kitchen, and if I remember correctly, your brother would be posted playing tabla on the shelf in the kitchen. Is that?
Yeah, we used to live in one room, 10 foot by 10 foot, and the kitchen was 10 by 8. So when I was my sister was studying in the main room, and I was practicing in the kitchen on a stool, and my brother was sitting on the top shelf of the kitchen and practicing tabla.
Next to spices and all kinds of things, or he had his own
Yeah,
shelf.
spices and the what is this called? Uh, the cooking is going on. All the frying sound and everything is just like like a chimes are being played along with tablas.
Wow. So
But that is 70, between 70 and 90.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that maybe that's why his playing is so organic. Um,
Spiced up.
and at that time, your father was your main teacher, or how?
No, I was being taught by several teachers, not yet with the guru, but my father was the prime, my mom was the prime, but as well as I was learning from the great guru, who is the father of the great sitar maestro Pandit Manilal Nag. Manilal Nag's father was my teacher as well. And then I met Ajay Chakravarti ji, Guruji,
Mm.
uh, and then I started learning from him the vocal styles as well. Before I went to Brijbhushan Kabra, from that 10 foot by 10 foot room, I drifted to Ahmedabad. Uh, so it was 1987. And 1993, I came first time to see the Statue of Liberty in New York.
That's it. You didn't play nothing.
And 2004, I saw you in Kolkata.
Is that the year? So that year, you came out with an album that made a huge impact, right as we were meeting, and that was the Mahima album with Bob
Bob
Brosman.
Brosnan.
And
Yes.
I learned something which has always stayed with me from the liner notes, but maybe you can tell me how true it is, or say it in your own words. But it talked about the first time, I guess, in Hawaii that anybody had recognized anybody playing the slide guitar, which we all associate with Hawaii. And in the liner
Yes.
notes, it said that it was an Indian slave or working on a ship who was sitting cross-legged and playing in that way. Is
That
that?
is that is one of that is one of the couple of myths.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that is also true. But Joseph Kikeku was another Hawaiian who was also the first. They in Hawaii they think the Hawaiians think that Joseph Kikeku is the first Hawaiian guitarist who worked with a knife on a fret
Mm,
to make the guitar. But this is also a true story. So probably it is both the side of one coin.
right. And then the loop continues
Yes,
because then one of the
Taumoy.
Tao Moy, one of the great slide guitarists, moves from Hawaii to Calcutta. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
And he becomes
He
a
lives here.
major session musician across
Yes,
all kinds of Bollywood music, right?
yes. Bollywood music, and also he was the major entertainer for British and American soldiers pre and post Second World War in
Okay.
Kolkata.
So we had the Joseph Kikaku period that's in the 20s or something like that.
Joseph Kekuyu is little earlier.
Uh-huh.
It's um, 18 something, like 1884 or 1887 or
Oh,
something.
wow.
And Taumoy came to Kolkata in 1920s.
Wow.
So
Okay.
Hawaiian guitar exploration and development of the guitar and guitar's music was pretty fast if you look at that.
Yeah. And then from the Joseph Kikeku, or perhaps this mysterious Indian sailor, um, that knowledge and that style and concept drifts back to Calcutta in the 1920s, becomes a huge thing, and then your Guruji Bri Bhujan Kabra learned. Is this correct from Tao Moi
No,
himself? No.
no,
Okay.
that is one line was not right in the Mahima liner
Okay.
note. Actually, one of my teachers who actually taught me Western slide guitar style, he just passed away a few years ago. Rajat Nandi, who studied, who learned Western style, who actually was influenced by Taumoy during Taumoy lived in Kolkata. So that part is correct.
Okay.
And Rajat Nandi saw Taumoy. And then Garninis, the Indian hockey player, who was amazing slide guitar player, was also contemporary and who was friend of Taumoy, who Taumoy and Garninis used to live in the next to each other in Park Street area. So Garni is a Anglo-Indian person, and Taumoy arrived in Kolkata with his wife Rose Moy and son Lenny, and their daughter Dorian was born in Park Street. So Garni and um, Taumoy used to play a lot in in the bars like Trinkas or other bars where the American and British Army used to folk, and they used to listen the modern uh, film songs arranged by Taumoy and with their American and Hawaiian style of singing. So at that time, Rajat Nandi was also close to Gardinis and Taumoy, from whom I have started learning in 1967, like some 40 years later of Taumoy's departure. 1967, I was 4 years, 68, I was 5 years. Around that time, I started learning six-string Hawaiian guitar with bar, with A major tuning, open D tuning, all the numbers, Western numbers like April in Portugal or uh, Woodpecker song or uh, Come September.
So you were learning
or
standards
yes, I learned standards.
at 4 or 5 years
And
old on the slide guitar.
as well as I was mimicking my mother's and father's Indian classical singing on slide guitar at the same time, even before that.
And why the guitar? Why was it? How did it?
Well, it was staying in the household, and I loved the clean standalone tone of each string.
Hmm.
So it had a clean personality, and you can say spirituality of clean. It is like the sound was transparent. So I really loved that. It's like a single tone voice,
Hmm.
you know.
And so just to go back a step, so with the Taumoy and then this the hockey player something Nandi that you mentioned,
Rajat Nandi.
Rajat Nandi, uh, was there a direct personal connection with Bhujan
Yeah, yeah.
Kabra? Yeah.
No, 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 no,
No.
no. Brijbhushan Kabra Guruji never knew about this story before I told him,
Okay.
much later.
So he discovered this on his own. He made this connection of playing
Indian classical guitar,
Indian
yes.
classical guitar.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, sounds like the facts got in the way of a good story. but but
Yes.
slightly, but it still is fascinating. So he had never
You
heard.
know, you know, you
Yeah.
know, Dave, if I say this million times on stage, people don't listen. But if the superstar, the Dave man speaks on radio,
Oh,
everybody listens.
we'll see about that. Yeah. So that's okay. That's really interesting. And
So Ali Akbar Khan
mhm.
was my Guru Brijbhushan Khabra's brother's teacher. So he came to Jodhpur and lived there with His Highness of Jodhpur Maharaja. And he started giving lessons to my Guruji Brijbhushan Kabra's elder brother, who was a fantastic sarod player, Damodar Lal Kabra. And he became actually friend with my Guru because my Guru used to drink whiskey and he loved whiskeys also. So they were like whiskey partners. And then Ali Akbar Khan Sahab took my Guruji in his arms, under his arms, and showed tricks to play Indian slide guitar because my Guruji was fascinated with guitar and he was trying to play on 16 Hawaiian guitar Indian classical music. So Ali Akbar Khan Sahab gave him some ideas about putting chikari strings
Mm.
and play with the thumb, etc. And then give him, and then gradually they were not anymore the whiskey partners. My Ali Akbar Khan become the great guru of my guru. So
Mm.
that is how he has developed the kindness of kind, uh, a sort of um, Maihar Gharana uh, performance style my guru developed from Alauddin Baba, Ali Akbar Khan, and Annapurna Ma. So gradually he took it seriously and he developed this style by his own and then has become very popular because there was nobody in that subject as close to him. People used to use slide guitar for film, for playing film songs or background of the movies with the electric guitar. Da, 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 da. Finish. Few such lines. Da, 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 da. Falsetto sound
Mm-hmm.
with a harmony, natural harmony. So those were common in films in Bollywood, but it was considered as Indian classical musicians fraternity as non-serious. approach of slide guitar. So my Guru Brij Bhushan Kabra was the first serious approach of slide guitar he brought.
Makes sense. Yeah. And it's interesting that he learned from Ali Akbar Khan, because
Yes,
I hear that in your music, that the cleanness, and the purity of the ideas, and of course the emotional element.
thank you.
So Anandi, I think, well, we first met when you were 8 years old, and you were already more accomplished musician than I was.
Oh,
that,
come on, David.
that,
I
well,
blame
anyway, you were a very impressive young lady who was very open to teaching, not just music, but you were, helped with some language stuff, and was very patient. That's why I can say Akdui Tinchar Pach, and Pach
It's very
Cola came in
sweet.
handy. I would get 5 bananas at the market. Apparently, if you know
Kotodam,
Kotodama, how much?
Kotodam.
How much? that's that's important. Yeah. Um, yeah. So maybe you can talk about your earliest musical education, and what you were learning and discovering.
Um, well, I mean, it was, like you saw when I was 8, there was just music in every floor of the house. I remember um, in and around the years from age 4 to almost 16 to 18. I mean, I think I was on tour for the first time in the US in 2012. So, I think around I was 15 or 16. I'm so bad at math, but every year in winter we'd have like students perched on our rooftop, and so from the ground floor to the rooftop there were 3 or 4 students practicing different things that Baba was teaching them. And I think aside from the fact that there were already so many students coming uh, to learn from him, I had an understanding of how far-reaching his art and his inventions went to influence people from all over the world. And I think when you say what my early education was like, I have to say that his his life was very exemplary. Aside from the music that he taught me, as to how global he was, how his music encompassed primarily Indian culture and music, but actually explored the whole world, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So I think from an early age, and I realized this more as I grew up, I think I had a very worldly education of Indian music, very different from what um, most celebrity musician kids get, if you know what I mean. Like, I was never I was never boxed into the tradition in a way that was limiting, but I had this this enormous worldview of what Indian music could do in any context. And I think the fact that he also invented so many instruments and innovated so many different sounds, um, that encompassed not just sitar sarod, but his most recent invention, the Pushpa Veena, has the sounds of, a shamisen, an oud, a rabab, a guzang, like all of these. The fact that he has, like, actually in his mind, he had pretty much um, wanted to explore every corner of world music. I think that's what I believe was the best part of my education from him growing up, pretty much since I was like 4 till this day. I think I'm still getting schooled all the time. So yes, I think that was my early education. Without understanding, I pretty much imbibed these these visions and these ideas from him, and it permeated somehow. And um I think I really got to see an innovator who was also an artist. Often that's not the case, because when you are a traditional artist and musician, I feel like you often are just carrying a tradition forward. But I cannot think of another, and call me biased, but I cannot think of another Indian musician who has made so many innovations in this century. And so, like in not only in his instrument for the sake of Indian music, but in the context of world music, in the context of folk music, little Anandi, Gandharvi, and now Pushpavina. Like, it's impeccable to see a scientist at work, aside from
Mm.
being an artist. Yeah, so that I would sum it up like that. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's like
that's
really.
really well put. And in terms of your own like influences now, like, because I guess you were raised in this manner where your focus was not a pure obsession with keeping a singular cultural tradition alive, but really
Yeah.
looking at this global world music tradition of everybody and everything. What other sounds have kind of like made it into your ears that you're interested in exploring further, or what other
Oh,
traditions?
I have been so obsessed with jazz music ever since Shakti happened, and John McLaughlin happened, and then a whole new door of exploring this music opened. And um, I have happened to work now with the Hong Kong Ballet and the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra as a soloist, and I'm co-composing, like, uh, art tech music for art tech music, and like writing lyrics and stuff. So I think I'm looking at music as a phenomenon where a lot of things and elements come together to tell important stories, narratives that make social differences or bring up um, important facts that we need to remember of being human in our humanity and stuff like that. I think from all of my influences, the ones that have really left a mark were those musics that came out of a revolution, like jazz, like blues, like Indian music as well, in a certain way, different world musics. And the space where right now Western contemporary classical music is starting to include a lot of worldly influences. That is where my work is to a large extent at the moment. And I feel like it's very interesting to try and make worlds collide for a narrative or a story. That's kind of where
Interesting.
I am.
Yeah, well, we'll keep following you, and it's very exciting to hear what you've done and what's coming
Thank you
next.
so much.
Yeah, and so uh, Debashish, Anandi mentioned that you've absorbed so many different traditions. It's made its way into the instruments that you've designed and created, and you've also, she mentioned John McLaughlin. You've connected with so many of the greatest musicians from the Western sphere, from Jerry Douglas and John McLaughlin himself, and I mean it's a very long list of the greatest musicians. Derek Trucks. It sounds like Derek Trucks has actually incorporated a lot of Hindustani influence into his playing now, and it's one of the things that makes him unique. Maybe we could start with that most influential one. Like, how did you first connect with McLaughlin, and what came out of it?
Well, I was, you remember, I made a album with Palash Gomes in New York,
Yes.
Rag Kirwani.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow John G has got that CD in his hand, and he really loved it. And when L. Shankar uh, trio after it is being done. Then they John G, U. Srinivas, Bhikuji, Selva Ganesh, and Zakir Bhai. They five build up a Remember Shakti band. Then they were looking for guest artists. So John G and Zakir Ji tried to communicate with me, and I ended up coming to Mumbai and play the first concert with them without knowing the song and the rehearsals. So because I was busy with my sister's marriage at the same time frame. So anyway, so that is how I was being invited, and then I started playing with them in Europe few, and then I played in Royal Albert Hall in London with them. But I can tell you the most important part, the message I want to give through you to the world, that I never looked at the consequences of my music. I always looked at how I can be ready to to be accepted as a student of music by the world. The world is full of great music already happened. The same air has been breathed hundreds of years by the great people, great composers, great singers, great actors, great writers. So whatever their experiences came out through their breath is still in the air, and we all over the world we somehow sometimes we inhale their breathing. So I always try to make myself easy and simple so that I can grab those nuances, those sounds, those teachings to enhance in my humble way the music itself into a different dome and give it to the newer generation. So being with John G, Zakir Ji, and Yusrini was my favorite most musician on the planet. I learned so many things. I felt love in a very different dimension sitting on stage with them. That was a like life changing, like that was a electric shock to change somebody's perception of music, somebody's perception of livelihood, somebody's perception of love, humanity. So those things has happened always in me, with me, like sitting with these great gurus, uh, Usad Ali Abur Khan Sahab, sitting with Pandit Ravi Shankar ji, sitting with Zakir ji's father, Allah Raka Khan Sahab, sitting with Pandit Kishan Maharaj, the great tabla legend, sitting with my guru. You know, you know the story that I left my profession at the age of 21. I left my home, my culture, my food, my profession, my fan base, my working space, and I went to stay with Brijbhushan ji like a unconditional musical enslavement. How many you think, Dave, you have seen in a biography that somebody has done this in this life? So I am really lucky. I got this opportunity to learn things from these great people in a very humble and very direct way. I didn't have internet. I didn't have YouTube, Facebook, internet, iPhone, Uphone. No, nothing. But I just got from there, touching their feet, looking at their eyes. I felt scared. I felt humbled. I felt sad. I felt joy. I felt inspired. I felt I need to go and practice right now. Just don't leave the house for another 18 hours. Just sit with your slide guitar and practice. This must be on my guitar. This sound must come on my instrument. Let me make a new instrument. Slide guitar, only slide guitar doesn't make sense. That is how I have brought not only the music, nuances, compositions, but these are all my territory, my domain. So that is a life of doing nothing else than just focus to the art. Somebody this morning is a very naive student asked me, how can I be a good artist? I said, a artist cannot be good or bad. Artist is an artist. But only one can be artist when he feel chill. He just wore the blanket of the art and feel the warmth. When he feels sad, he just take the art in his arms and cry. When he feel really happy, cheerful, he jumps with the art. He lives with the art. He or she need to be married with the art. Then art will make you artist. You cannot become an artist. Art will make you artist. So that was the teaching of my ancestors. I could not do anything else in an ordinary way or already available setup way. I could not do anything. That is why I also left Anandi. I also left my son Surya Dipto to choose their future. So I'm really lucky that my son and my daughter is carrying my legacy, my ancestral legacy, legacy of my gurus. They have chosen to stay with music. So this tour is we are coming with is called the Legacy Tour, as we are presenting pure Indian classical compositions and ragas in the way that is universal. As a It is very hard as well, Dave, to produce something when you don't put your all the time your adrenaline into it. It is very difficult to make music breathe in your hand without your egos. That is a very different kind of attitude and training. So we are working on this for last 1.5 year to put up in an album and as a tour as well. And we are extremely lucky that we can just present that for Ragas Live.
Yeah, we are honored and very excited to have a chance. This has been a long time coming. By some measures, 20 years waiting for this
Of
this
course.
moment to happen. I mean, of course, the love and passion that your family had directly resulted in the radio show that we're now, and that directly turned into this festival of which is now in its 13th year and has.
I remember I remember how you started the first festival and then second, then third. I remember some of the moments of having conversation with you and how it has grown into this such a huge one now.
Well, thank you for being my therapist during those early years. you know, one thing I remember from 20 years ago that you said to me that's always stuck with me was something that you said your father said to you, and you said that when you were first studying music with you and Shubi in the house, that he took you to the bus stop, and he said, you see all these people, they work 8 hours a day and they commute for an hour and a half a day. So if you want to be a musician with integrity, you're going to put in at least that 10 hours a day, just like everybody else. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because both Subi and me were what you call Faki Vajmana in English.
Anandi, can you help us with that?
I am trying to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. Um, well, it's not really true, Baba. I don't think you were that at all. Ever. You were very disciplined.
Sometimes
Um,
I used to play football, cricket, and then badminton before I come home around 8 o'clock in the night, especially winter nights usually. So one of
like
those
an
days,
escapist, like an escapist,
Okay,
somebody who
yeah, escape.
looks for excuses to absolve their work and practice the
got it.
actual work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you need to have some fun in
Hardly,
this world
hardly.
too, right?
Hardly. I don't think I hardly think Dad at all fits that description. I mean, it's if anything, his playing is proof that. I mean, if anything, like that is all the proof we ever need that he wasn't.
Mm,
But I guess this is also a lesson that even those hours were not enough for him.
yeah.
So
And you
I'm
play
not
music,
surprised.
right? You play music. You don't work music. Um, wow. So yeah, this new project is really unique and exciting. I guess you are going back to the earliest recordings of raga, and that's part of the inspiration of this project.
Yes, our earliest recordings of the ragas, how they were short and crispy. So that is there are few of these songs are there already, and but also we have some long songs with both of my children and Subhashish, um, and some amazing alap they have performed with me. It's a simple alap can make a track, because I felt always by traveling. My my theory is nowadays people who never travel, they don't grow, they don't learn. So it has never been the case for myself, and I have seen that how in Western world, and today's there is no Western, no Eastern, it's all global world. Everybody listens music to the same way almost. Everybody has an iPhone or a Samsung or what is called Android, and they every tracks of YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify is available for everyone. So choices are. I was being told by my social media people that now 35 to 55 age audience are more for my music. So basically, so alap is also a part of the music. It's not only just you shoot a gun and throw stones
Mm.
and that only buzz. That's not the right uh, expression of Indian classical music. As you know, Drupad was so soft, so gentle, and the veena, the Rudra veena, is a so soft and subtle and gentle instrument. They never had pickup 20 years ago. I have heard Ustad Asad Ali Khan's live performance. I have heard Ustad Davir Khan Saab's live performance of used to use only one SM58 microphone. I have also heard them playing without microphone in a room. So that subtleness of the music is also today, it's still a good music for younger generation and middle aged people. They love the subtleness and sweetness and softness. So that is not always yang yang yung yung. There are some other stuff is also available in Indian classical music that is kind of a priority in this legacy album, focused on that.
Yeah. Well, it's we're super excited to finally get a chance to present you both. And actually, Shubi will be performing as well in a tribute to
Yes,
one of the prodigal sons of
Badal,
Calcutta, Badal Roy.
Badal.
Yeah, who had such an interesting and unique career and attitude about life. I mean, he's actually probably one of the only musicians who played with both Miles Davis and Ornette Coleman. And he really did his own thing, right? He was not someone who restricted to the strict rules of being a Hindustani classical musician.
No, he was avant-garde percussionist from India, from Kolkata, and that is one side that he was such wanted tabla player and percussionist, accompanying artist of the band, rhythm artist of the band. But at the same time, I know Badal as one of the first time connoisseurs of Indian classical music who brought loads of Indian classical music to New York and fed them, put connection with Lyle Wachowski, and allowed Lyle to allowed the artists to introduce themselves with Lyle and make fantastic records with India archive music. Um, at least for 10, 15 years, he has served as the intermediate person to just let the younger musician come to New York, record and perform, and people know them. So that part of Badalda, I admire, and I officially, I'm telling you, David Allenbogen, that part of Badalda is hardly being on uh, any declaration by anybody else.
That's fascinating. I didn't know about that aspect of him. That's amazing, because those recordings are really the most important recordings kind of made in the United
Yes,
States. Yeah.
Ustad Vilayat Khan Saab
Hmm.
was being introduced to uh, Lal Wachowski by Badal Roy,
Yeah, and those are the
and from that stature, every other musicians mostly who have recorded during 1991, 92, 93, 94, 95 were all collections of Badalda.
wow, amazing. Well, I I'm so excited. And speaking of kind of the McLaughlin influence and all this stuff, and you mentioned you Srinivas, his brother, is going to be you Rajesh is going to be playing a late night set at 2 in the morning with
Oh, lovely.
yeah, Swaminathan Selvagenesh, who's also in that legacy of the great Shakti family that you're part of, and Ganesh Rajagopal will be playing an early set, who's the violinist in the
Yes,
latest
yes,
Shakti incarnation,
yes.
and the Mysore brothers, and it's really so many wonderful musicians playing in one setting. So it'll be
I'm so happy. I'm
yeah,
so happy to see all my Indian brothers are coming to this festival.
yeah. Well,
Amazing.
thanks both for all your
Thank you,
dedication.
David.